obviously it's very memorable for somebody if it's their first class. I don't know if you remember your first class, Reid.
I do. Yeah.
But it's kind of a memorable experience because it's your first time going through it.
100%.
Reid's first class does all grandparents now, so yeah, it's been a while. I'm actually surprised that he can actually listen.
That's so uncool. Why you gotta be
sorry,
like
bro.
that, man?
Sorry, bro. Sorry.
Welcome to Guys Fishing Weekly. We don't just fish, we hug.
Hey, buddy.
Eddie, what's up, dude?
What's going on, brother?
How are you, bro?
I'm doing all right. You?
I'm great. Great, I tell ya.
Love it.
Finally looks like winter around here instead of brown.
Don't even get me started.
Mr. 2 feet of snow out there in Kansas City.
We'll talk about that later. I don't want to ruin the mood on this podcast yet.
Oh, I love it. All right, dude. Who do we have going today?
Well, before we get into that, I want to talk about our favorite app and sponsor of the show, Trout Routes Pro.
Today's episode is sponsored by Trout Routes. Winter trout fishing can be a challenge, but it's also one of the most rewarding seasons to be on the water. To make the most of it, you need the right tools, and that's where Trout Routes Pro comes in. With satellite imagery and detailed maps of over 50,000 trout streams, you can scout winter-friendly spots like deep pools, tailwaters, and areas that stay ice-free. Planning your trip is easier than ever with over 350,000 access points mapped, plus custom markers that let you track your favorite winter runs or places to warm up. You can even check stream flows and water temperatures to ensure you're fishing in the most productive conditions. Winter fishing is about precision and preparation. Let Trout Routes Pro be your guide to finding the perfect stretch of water this season. Podcast listeners can save 20% on their first year of Trout Route Pros by using code WEEKEND2025 at maps.troutroutes.com. That's 20% off your first year of Trout Routes Pro by using code WEEKEND2025 at maps.troutroutes.com.
Today we're talking with Kyle Krasky, a.k.a. TheTroutLegend on Instagram.
Nice. That was a good conversation, dude. Kyle's a good dude.
He is. We talked about the importance of mentors and teaching, intentionality of planning fishing trips with people you love, fathers encouraging the next generations to get out on the water, finding care within the community, and 30-inch brown trout.
30-inch brown trout, dog. Let's get into it.
Hey, Kyle, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing great, man. Welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you.
Good to have you.
Excited to be here.
Where do we find you today?
Lunch break in Edina, Minnesota.
Nice.
Awesome.
That's a pretty nice area of Minnesota, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Edina is very nice. West Metro
Okay.
of the Twin Cities. But, yeah, beautiful place.
I had a couple buddies who were from there from college. They were pretty spoiled guys. Yeah, they were the greatest because like you'd go out for beers and they would offer to pay. I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, let's go.
Reid had his alligator or his T-Rex arms. Oh, I'm going to get that check.
No, there was good dudes from Edina. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's definitely a big hockey area. That's for sure.
Indeed.
Are you a big hockey guy?
Yeah, I am a big hockey guy. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day,
The Minnesota Wild?
yeah, at the end of the day, we're born frozen up here, so we might as well skate.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Are you a Stars hater? My wife, since the North Stars left, has always like hated Dallas. And so it's like, yeah, that was tough to go from Minnesota to Dallas. That was brutal for her.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm in the weird area. I was born in 1990. So
Okay.
I grew up without a hockey team. So I actually gravitated towards the Capitals with their run in the late 90s and became a Capitals fan until the Wild came in 2000.
Nice. Okay. Cool.
I luckily grew up with the Avs as an expansion team, and hit the ground running, just being awesome.
You got spoiled.
I was in love with hockey as a kid, and then the strike happened, and the Avs sucked afterwards, and I kind of fell off from hockey. But hockey was awesome just because we were so good.
Yeah, you got spoiled. All of Colorado got spoiled. I'm a Ranger fan, like a New York Rangers fan, and so it's been a long time. It's a big drought in between winning Stanley Cups. It's like whatever.
We don't expect anything up here. That's for sure.
That's it. My brothers-in-law, they always talk about like, oh yeah, they'll have great regular season, whatever, and then just nothing's gonna come of it. Like, don't get too excited.
No, just enjoy the season while it lasts.
That seems to be the case with Minnesota fans. It's hilarious.
For sure.
Why don't you start off by giving us a little bit of background on yourself and how you even got into fishing?
Yeah. So, being from Minnesota, grew up with all these lakes around me. So at a young age, just started pan fishing, 3-4 years old. One of my most memorable things that probably was like, I'm bit. I got to fish all the time. Is I was 4 years old with a couple siblings and cousins, and there was 5 of us in total. And we were out on a boat up in Brainerd, where Reid was with his family not that long ago.
Yep.
By Breezy Point, Pelican Lake there.
Right on. Yeah. Been there. Yeah. We stayed at Breezy Point, like for my brother-in-law's, for his wedding. We stayed at Breezy Point. Nice.
So the story starts on that lake, fishing in a boat with 5 little ones, all under the age of 9 years old, and Grandpa. And, he's got to bait everybody's hook and do everything. And so we're all getting set up. Luckily, I was one of the first to get set up. So I go to the left side of the boat and catch a fish immediately. And so they're all still getting ready, and they're starting to all fish on the other side of the boat. And so I already got the fish off. I'm back in the water. I caught another one. So as I'm getting the second one off, they all switch to the other side of the boat. That's where the fish are, is on that side of the boat. And so I wasn't going to have that. So I go to the opposite side. So I'm the only one on my side, and there's 4 piled up on the other side now. And just went back and forth. I'm not kidding you, for probably an hour. And I outfished them all 10-1 for sure.
No, that's great.
So that's where it all just kind of, the fishing bug bit me so hard at that point.
Some people are just fishy. You sound like you're just one of the fishy ones.
I'll say I'm lucky. I'm lucky.
That's awesome. At 4 years old, I imagine that's that's all it.
Yeah, and up there they have great panfish. So I mean, we're talking 9-inch on average, bluegills and stuff like that. So you're catching good eater fish up there. And then it just kept going. I got a pole now, and so then I fished and fished. My mom was a single mother, and she brought me out all the time because that's what I wanted to do. So we'd go out to a park or whatever that had a lake next to it, and I'd be fishing while my little brother would be playing at the park. And so it was just always. So grew up pan fishing, and then into my teenage years, I got really big into bass fishing with a couple buddies, and started bass fishing a ton. And then in my teenage years, my grandfather on my mother's side actually was taking me out on a yearly trip for walleye. And so we traveled across all over Minnesota, and even did Lake of the Woods trip up in Canada. And we did tons of fishing trips with Grandpa over a 6-year span or so. And then his health went down.
Right.
And so with bad health, he just couldn't do it anymore. He's still alive and kicking today. He's one of my rocks.
Nice.
I talk to Grandpa Lyle every day. But yeah, he was a 52-year barber, and told me never to cut hair. Do something you love.
Right on.
Why no hair cutting?
He said your hands. He's like, you won't be able to fish. Your hands, your feet. You're standing all day and using your hands.
Right.
And so
Makes sense.
he never thought it was a lucrative business to to sustain a family for sure.
Right. Not worth the physical pain you get later on. And if you have to give
No.
up fishing, who the hell wants
Right.
that?
I can't. Yeah, I do come from some addicts, and at the end of the day, I'm addicted to fishing. So
Right. That's a good thing to be addicted to. That and walleye sandwiches. I'm going to tell you, one of the best sandwiches ever is a fresh walleye sandwich. And they are abundant. If you've never done that, it's awesome. Yeah, that's good stuff.
Yeah,
up there.
we got some walleye up here, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, so did all that fishing with Gramps and everything, and then 18, 19 years old, it's like I couldn't afford a boat. I didn't know exactly what avenue to venture down, and I actually met my wife back in '08, and her father was a fly fisherman. And so my now father-in-law was packing up one day in 2009, I think, and was just going to go over the border to the Kinnickinnick and River Falls. And I saw him gearing up, and I was like, "What the heck are you doing? Like, I've never seen this type of rod, and what are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm going fly fishing." And I was like, "I'm coming with. Like, I'm inviting myself right now. We're going." And so he took me out back in the backyard and showed me how to do a roll cast real quick, and just was like, "It's pretty simple. Just make sure you watch out behind you because there's trees everywhere." And so he was like, pretty much just make sure manage the line, keep it in front of you. You don't need that much line out. We're going to kind of pop from hole to hole. And the Kinnickinnick is about 12 feet wide on average. So it's not a big river by any means.
Right.
And so we get out. So I've had 30 minutes of practice, 30 minutes of fly fishing knowledge at this point. And we get out there, and within 5 minutes, I caught a little brown.
Nice.
And so it was game on from there. I think my first time out with John there, it was about 2.5 hours on the water, and I probably bagged a dozen little browns. And the Kinney, where I fish a lot, you're talking 6 to 12-inch trout typically. There was a guy this year that pulled out a 24-inch brown. So there are monsters hiding, but they're really hard to find.
Right.
So I've been fly fishing for almost 15 years, and I've gotten about an 18-inch brown out of the Kinney. And I probably fish it at least a handful of times every year.
Nice.
So
is that what's the water you fish probably the most? Would it be that river?
It would be that mixed with the Rush River, which is about 30 minutes further.
Okay.
So I got the Kinney and the Rush, and then in the last few years I've been really pressing the Willow River, which is just north of those. And they do stock that with rainbow trout as well. In the spring, around April. So I try to get out and do the Willow early in the year, and then move towards the Kinney and the Rush. And we also have the Trembell in between those, which is really skinny water. We're talking like 3 feet wide in a lot of spots, 3 to 5 feet wide.
That's more like a ditch.
For sure. But it's great for hoppers. I mean, because it's so narrow, you can kind of sneak up and get around windy areas and get some brookies and browns are in the Trembell. So we got pretty much a huge native brown population, but we do have quite a few little brookies too. You're not going to catch one over 11, most likely.
Right. Yeah, Ed, I don't know if you've seen videos on some of those Montana spring creeks, but they're no more than 3 feet wide. They're catching like 26
monster fish. It's crazy.
Yeah.
No joke. Yeah.
Never underestimate the power of the ditch.
For sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, so started fly fishing at these local rivers, and I think it was my second or third time out with John. There was a hole, and we went back to a place that I'd already fished. So kind of knew where I wanted to go to. And there was a hole that I had pulled a couple fish out of the first time I was out. And I go up and I'm drifting through that same spot. And one of the things that I've always thought I've done well at, just with learning fishing at a young age, is being able to read the water. So I knew that it was a drop off at this ledge. And so I'm pretty much high sticking this through this hole. And John comes walking by, and, you know, he's one to give me a hard time no matter what it is. And he just starts ripping on me. And I was like, I'm going to catch a fish. And he goes, no, you're not. And so I go, this cast right here, and I plunk it down, drifting through, and I go right about here, and I set the hook and caught a little brown. And so ever since then, he kind of shut his mouth on
Nice.
can this guy fish?
Right. Got to prove your worth. You got to prove your worth, right?
That's when you got your wife's hand in marriage. Was after that
Exactly.
exact moment.
That's all it takes. You got to outfish the fisherman.
Right. That's right.
That's great. That's good.
And then, so after fishing for a handful of years at local rivers, I did my first trip out to Wyoming with John, and we hit up Casper and Alcova and booked a trip with a guide, and then knew that there was a lot of walk and wade area. So did a trip with the guide, get your information, kind of know what bugs you need, and then kind of went from there. And that's kind of been an annual deal for 11 years now.
Right on.
That's awesome.
Good. Yeah, we did a trip up there last year and fell in love with Wyoming. So much good water to fish up there. That was incredible. So I get why you go back there.
Well, and that's where I've hooked, I believe, my biggest rainbow ever, which I would believe was the 30 plus mark.
Nice.
And that was only like my second trip out there. So you're just hooked. The second you see something that big, you're like, I gotta go catch one of those.
Right.
Unfortunately didn't get that one because I'm using a size 20 Mayhem midge. And it worked me. It got me. And that happens. That's all part of fishing.
Absolutely.
We all have the stories of the ones who got away. Yeah.
That's right.
But so then, around COVID, a lot of friends and my wife also were like, you need to do this on Instagram. You need to start posting your fish pictures and showing people some unique fishing.
Right.
And so that's how the Trout Legend kind of was born. Was I was being pushed into doing Instagram. And so what happened was I was down in Arkansas for a family trip down there, and we had 1 day to float the White River, and we got out floating the White River, and it was absolutely insane. I think we landed about 15, 16 little brook trout, and we ended up with, I believe, 9 browns over 20.
Nice.
Dang. It's a good day.
And that is also where I caught my largest brown trout, which was a just shy of 27-inch brown trout.
Nice.
That's awesome.
And I've posted that a couple times.
Right. Yeah, we were just talking before we got on camera. We were looking at the calendar like, when am I coming out? When are we going down to the White? We got to do it because I hear the winter fishing down there is really good. So it's supposed to be a really good spot to go in the winter time. But the monster browns. There's another dude who we've been wanting to connect with, who does only like night trips and fishes mice
with
pattern
mouse.
at night. Yeah. That's like on our bucket list for sure. I want to go catch some monster browns in the dark of night on mouse patterns.
100%. Yeah, that's definitely something any fly fisherman should want to do.
Right?
Yeah.
That's a once in a lifetime thing. And I think that's one of the things that just makes me want to fly fish so much is there's always that chance. There's always that trip you could take to better your best. And that's always something I'm striving to do is be better, do better, all that.
Right. Absolutely.
Well, going back to that annual trip that you do with your father-in-law, what is it about doing an annual trip and getting some on the calendar? I know you've talked about you do a few trips a year, but what is it, the importance of doing that annual trip with your father-in-law that's so important to you?
You know, at the end of the day, John has always looked at me as a friend, somebody who shares interests, kind of like community, which you guys talk about all the time. Community is definitely just, it's people who care. You know, at the end of the day, does somebody actually care about what you think, how you live, all that? And John's one of those guys. He really just genuinely cares and wants the best for me. And obviously, when you're with somebody's daughter, you probably want the best for them too.
Sure, absolutely. You've talked about that. You've talked about your grandfather's influence on you and your fishing. Now you have your own kids. Talk a little bit about the fatherhood and the passing down of like the love of fishing. Have they gotten into it? And kind of like, what's that given you in terms of being a dad?
Yeah, for sure. At the end of the day, so like I said, I picked up a fly rod at 19 and I didn't even know anything about fly fishing. And so after picking up a fly rod and fishing a little bit, I started telling people, and I told both of my grandfathers that I was getting into fly fishing. Ended up finding out that both of my great grandfathers were insanely huge fly fishermen. And so I never got to meet either one of my great grandfathers, but they were both huge fly fishermen. And so that was very cool for me to know that it's in the blood. Like it's just there. And then, so I'm 34. I had my first kid, my daughter Lila, when I was 20. And then my son, who just turned 9, Clay. And then now I have a 3-year-old named Sage. And not the rod. That was not in play. Wasn't because of the rod.
That's hilarious because just to interrupt you real quick, my daughter's middle name, my youngest daughter's middle name is Marley after her grandmother, but I always like tell people is after Bob Marley, even though it's spelled different. But yeah, so I get it. Like Sage, it's not about the rod, but
it's
maybe,
not I'm a huge fisherman. Maybe if Sage will sponsor me, I'll give him credit.
right. Turn her into a world-class fly fisherman.
Yeah, for sure.
Sorry, I didn't.
But yeah, so my oldest daughter, Lila, actually didn't mind. She always wanted to go fishing with me. It was just something she liked outdoors in general. And so just being out there was fine. I've never pressured the kids into fishing. You don't have to pick up a rod, but you want to come with, you want to go do something.
Right.
And just being outdoors is huge. My son is huge into just bugs and frogs and all that. So he's in heaven being at a river and looking for stoneflies and comes running over and he shows me a bunch of caddis larvae. And then I'm like, all right, I'll switch.
Nice. Right.
So to get my kids the bug, I just kind of left it up to them. But you're out here. You're out here with me, but just do your thing. If you want to pick up a rod, pick it up. And I will guide you through it and that will get you some fish. And so, the last 2 years, I would say I really I've got my kids out and they've wanted to fish. And then this, last year in 2024, they both got to catch their own little brown trout, same day, which was cool.
Nice.
Also on the Kinney where I caught my first fish, which is also just another cool, layer to the story.
Right.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Well, it sounds like teaching is something that you are super passionate about with your own family and friends. And talk a little bit about what teaching means to you. Anybody
with the name The Trout Legend has to have some teaching in there for sure.
Yeah, I think teaching is a huge part of being a legend. I mean, if you want to be good, you can go do it. And that's where I go to my kind of slogan, LLDT, listen, learn, do, teach. And that all can be done, but at what level can it be done at? And that's where I think you have to make sure that the person's interested in what they're doing, and has the passion for it. If they don't, there's not much you can do. You only can teach so much if somebody's not that interested. And I actually have a community that's growing insanely, in the last couple of years, that people want me to come out and fish, or teach them a little something. And so I've gotten a lot of contacts in the last couple of years to teach or bring out or just kind of throw some tips their way. And I'm more than happy to do that, because at the end of the day, I can't be on every piece of water and worry about somebody catching a fish here or there. We're all out there to have fun and catch fish. And so I'm all for telling you my favorite fly, whatever it is. I'm for all of the knowledge.
Right. And I think that's such a huge thing about, fly fishing. And I think the changing kind of way people look at it, because, it used to be this kind of old school, rich person's thing. People were real crotchety about it, and it was kind of intimidating. And I think there's like this shift in the way that we're looking at it, and the sharing of knowledge, and the willingness to teach others the things we've learned and the things we know about that. And so I love that piece about that. And the thing I think I love the most about your kind of philosophy towards it is the listen part. I think that's one piece that, in order to teach, you absolutely must listen to what your students need, or whoever you're working with, what they need, what they want. And so that listen piece is so vital to, the success of getting across whatever it is you want to do, and to helping them be successful. You got to listen. So I love that aspect of it. That's really good. And 100% with, kids, that can get frustrating as a dad, because they never want to listen. But it is such an important piece to be good listeners in order to expect people to listen to you too. So that's a really important faction of that. I love that.
For sure. And nobody wants to listen to somebody if they don't know what they're doing. Right. So you better know what you're doing. And that's the do part. You got to do it, and you got to know how to do it. And then the teaching can come after that.
Right. And not be afraid to fail when you're doing. And I think that's another thing, right? I mean, it's, fishing's about, like we said, the stories are the ones that got away, right? The big ones that we missed, those are the failures. But, learning how to do that, letting that energy drive us to do something where we find success. There's a lot of young people that don't know how to fail. And so I think that's a huge piece of it. You got to go out and do, and we learn through doing, and we learn through failing. And then you become more of an expert every time you do that. So I love your idea about that. It's good.
Well, yeah. And I also think, at the end of the day, we see all these massive fish on Instagram, and there's so many areas where that's not even possible. Like in my area, you're not catching a 24-inch rainbow trout. There isn't any. But at the same time, if you really want to learn how to wrangle some big fish, you got to go out to Wyoming or somewhere where there's big water and wrangle some of those. You're going to miss some. But over time, fighting big fish continuously, you're going to get to the point to where all of a sudden I can do this.
Right.
And I think that's what the Wyoming trip, my first ever Wyoming trip, did to me. I hadn't ever hooked up with a 20-inch, and I got out there and I hooked up with a 20-inch rainbow, and luckily was able to land my first 20-inch rainbow. But I'm sure there's more than I could even count that got off. So there's always that.
Yeah.
Well, your motto LLDT is kind of like that actualization of a fisherman. You gotta listen and learn, and then do one, teach one, as they say. So you're living the actualization of becoming a true legend. It's awesome.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, there's all these greats that are out there. I mean, Lefty Cray and Rosenbauer, and you got all these old timers that have done it, and we've seen what they've done. And I guess the way I look at it is I'm young. I'm really young in this sport. And so I got time to grow into the name. So
Yeah.
that's what I intend to do.
Right on.
And I've been bit since I was little, so there's no way I'm going to stop now.
That's awesome. Well, we'd love to get on the water together one of these days. If we were to come up to your neck of the woods, what would a trip with Kyle and the Trout Legend look like?
Yeah. Well, you guys would probably fly into the Twin Cities. And then Reid's going to stay with his family. I don't know if you're going to bunk with them.
I might.
If we're going fishing, I don't have to.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have to see family.
No.
Hell, I might not even tell them I'm coming if we're going fishing.
But yeah, depending on the time of year, like let's say, for instance, we're talking about spring because we're coming around the corner. Mother's Day, a huge time to be up here. We got a Mother's Day hatch. We have all sorts of caddis coming off at that time and different things. So you kind of can use anything. With the little rivers that I'm fishing, which is where I would take you as the Rush and the Kinnickinnick, where I fish a lot. Just because I'm kind of dialed in on those rivers, so it would just be pretty fun to have you guys on known water that I fish more than anything.
Right.
And at the end of the day, we would probably be dry fly fishing. With some sort of caddis or BWO. And then the other thing
stimmies?
well, so
Ed's a big stimmy guy, you know.
That's kind of
you haven't said my favorite word yet, so I don't know if I'm coming. You gotta say it before I'll come. Yeah.
So we actually have a lot of wet flies. So we swing those. So instead of streamer fishing, I find it way more productive to like wet fly swing it through a hole.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just because we have smaller fish. So they're eating a lot of 18s, 20s. And so we're never really fishing anything big. Some guys do love to throw a woolly bugger or, something like that. But I find it harder to catch fish with stimmies, and streamers. But if you were to come in August, September, you can any chubby Chernobyl, anything on top, you can chuck it and you're gonna get a fish.
All right.
So you guys tell me when you're coming, and then we can work with what we're doing from there.
All right.
That's good. Do you do much camping? Do you guys go do weekend trips or anything with your family? Do you camp around much and fish?
Yeah, with having a 3-year-old now, we haven't done much in the last couple of years.
That'll slow you down.
What we have done is down in southern Minnesota, we do have some good water down by the river and whitewater down there. And so we've done an Airbnb the last couple of years down there for a long weekend, and end up hitting the Root River or something like that, where they do have more stocked rainbows. And so you're going to just catch more variety. They're also a little bigger down there. So that's always a thing too. And with the Mayo Clinic being down there, Airbnbs are extremely cheap.
Right.
We were staying for like 120 a night, which is cheaper than a hotel down there.
Excellent.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, there we go. GF Dub trip.
Yeah. We'll make something like that happen this year for sure.
For sure. But yeah, actually this spring, I will be the week before Mother's Day. I will be out fishing with this guy, Mr. Oros.
Nice.
Nice.
I've linked up with Patrick over the last couple of years, and he's actually from Minnesota.
Excellent.
So his parents still are here, and so we've gotten to chit chat, know each other. You can see on my Instagram, I went fishing with him when he came out one time, and Oros has some pretty insane stuff down the pipeline. So anyone who doesn't know about Oros, you better pay attention. And if you do know about Oros, whatever they're bringing to the table is going to be very interesting.
Yeah, I started fishing their using their strike indicators at the last year, and they're amazing. They're so good. They're so easy to get on and off. And God, they're great. I love their product. It's really good with that stuff.
Yeah, I've also noticed with like the different colors, I always have it 2 different colors. And that allows to where, like, if it's floating and you're just seeing one color and it just twitches just the tiniest bit, that could be a fish. And I always say hook sets are free. So we're setting the hook on everything. And so as long as your depth's right, you're typically hitting a fish in the face every time.
Right. Yeah, that's what I do. I take, buy like whites and reds and purple, whatever, and then you just switch them around, which is awesome because they're interchangeable, so you can make them all 2 colored. And for a guy that can't see that well, as I'm getting older, vision becomes an issue. No, they're fantastic.
Always been an issue here.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So you can appreciate that, but I love the different sizes. So when you're on like smaller, clear water, you use the little one, doesn't spook the fish. Yeah, they're really good. And the design of it is just awesome. It's really easy to take them on and off, to move them, to slide it down. Like, it's super simple and so great to use. Yeah, so they're fantastic.
Yeah, one of the things I've been doing is I use a lot of atoms up here. And so I've been using the little indicator with a parachute atoms and no high vis or anything. So it actually starts to sink a little bit, but having an indicator about 2 feet away has been insanely good and worked very well to then know that take, even if they're sipping it right under the surface where you're not seeing it. Or you hit a foam seam where you can't see the take. Then you got that indicator moving. And so, yeah, I've seen it work extremely well in so many applications. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. And like I say, as I'm getting older and things are, I find in the wintertime when it's cold, like my fingers don't work quite as well. Time flies on. But these are so easy that like you're not pinching anything. You're not having to, miss with anything. It's just screw it on, screw it off. And it's like so simple. So it's great in so many facets. It's a really good product. You have a couple other ones that you're working with, a couple other companies.
Yeah. So I've been working with 8 Fans for the last 2 years also. Pretty much on their weighting equipment, from their boots to their waist waders, chest waders, different things like that. And then last year I did get to work their combo rod, 3-4 weight. My son actually loves it. So
nice.
Definitely a beginner rod, nothing that anybody wants to pick up if they've been in the sport for a while. But for newcomers, learning how to nymph and stuff, it's a great rod.
Nice.
But yeah, the waist waders were what really attracted me to 8 Fans, because there's no competition when it comes to price with their waist waders. I believe they're right around $100, but they always have a sale. So you probably can pick them up for about $80 at any point. And yeah, they're kind of like a frog tog. I mean, they're not nothing special, but they'll get the job done. And that's one of the things that I also really like to educate people with, is you don't have to spend $1 million to be a fly fisherman. You can do everything from be a fair weather fisherman and wet wade to buying some cheap 8 Fans waders, or, go out and buy the Patagonias if you want to.
Right. I think the affordability piece is huge, and I think companies like that are great to have in terms of that. I kind of did the same thing when I discovered waist waders, because out here, I have full waders for the wintertime, but I fish mostly in waist waders from spring all the way through late fall now. And so when I discovered those, it was really awesome. And my first pair was a pair of frog togs, but I used them so much, and they held up and they're durable. And it's like for the kind of fishing, it's really nice to have, when you're going bushwhacking through stuff, to have those on, but I don't want the heat of the full waders. So they were, waist waders were a big, huge discovery for me that made my fishing so much more enjoyable, as in hot days and all that kind of stuff. So that's awesome. And I love the fact that there's affordability in companies that are coming out now for that stuff, because it didn't used to be like that. Right?
Not at all.
It used to be,
No.
you had to spend $350 for waders, or 300, it was like,
For sure.
So it's good to get more people involved.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and at the end of the day, we all have a budget. And so,
Right.
like you said, affordability is becoming more and more what people are gravitating towards. Is, can I afford $400 waist waders without my wife, tearing me a new one? Well, I can't. I promise you, I can't.
Right. Not to mention, I'd rather put that in a trip going somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah. So I'd rather put my money there, going to do some different kinds of fishing.
Yeah. Otherwise, the kids
that's
ate
good.
it.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Kids are always draining the bank account. I can tell you that.
For sure. Well, this has been awesome. How about we wrap this up with the GFW hot seat?
Sounds good.
Welcome to the GFW Hot Seat, where the name of the game is to answer the questions. And the prizes are... Wait, who said we have prizes?
What is one thing you're currently celebrating in life?
As of right now, I'm celebrating selling my business. I'm a sewer cleaner, and I ran my own business for 7 years, and I actually sold at the end of October and joined with a larger outfit.
Nice. Congrats.
Yeah, so that's been something I've been navigating a lot and celebrating.
That's great.
So,
Yeah, congrats, dude. That's awesome.
Thanks. Yeah, to take some hats off and not have to do everything when it comes to a business is nice.
Right? And you get more time to go fishing.
And I get paid leave.
Hopefully.
So that means I get to take a trip and get paid for it.
That's right.
That's awesome.
That is amazing. Kyle, give us one piece of content. Could be a book, a video, a series you're watching, show, whatever, that you'd recommend to our listeners.
All right. Well, I'm going to go different. Most people recommend a book. Being from Minnesota, Grumpy Old Men. If you want to know what an old crotchety fisherman is, watch Grumpy Old Men.
Yes. Love it. You got
That's a good movie.
fishing, you got Minnesota, you got aging. That's like, yes.
Yeah.
Nice. Love it. Good one.
What is one of your favorite fishing memories?
One of my favorite would probably be how the TroutLegend was born, which was a trip with John. It was kind of a spur of the moment trip, where we were like, we really would like to go somewhere. It's getting cold here. And, so we were looking at doing Lee's Ferry down in Arizona. And, so we were looking at flights to Vegas, which is 4 hours away from there. We're only like $99. And so whenever it's a good price, I'm in. And so we ended up taking a red eye down to Las Vegas, hopped in a car immediately and drove the 4 hours to Lee's Ferry, parked at the dock and slept for a couple hours, woke up by the guide knocking on our window and saying, "You guys ready to go?" And of course, we're ready. We weren't sleeping or anything. And so we jump in a jet boat and head on up and fish. And we fished in Horseshoe Bend, which is in Arizona. And we were doing 70-foot drifts to catch these rainbow trout, because what they were doing was they were eating on the rise, but they were very spookable with how clear the water was. So you had to have massive casts to get it out there. And so after fishing that, had a great day, caught quite a few nice little rainbows, nothing huge to write home about, but an amazing scenery and everything like that. We jumped in the car and my father-in-law goes, "Do you want to go to the San Juan?" And I'm not going to say no. I'm not one to say no. And so we ended up hoofing it 4 hours to the San Juan. And we get out of the car and it looked like chocolate milk. They had the turbine turn on with a bunch of silt. And so the whole river literally looked like chocolate milk. And so we're like, well, we got to go to the bait shop. Let's see what's going on. So we walk in and we're at the fly shop and they're like, yeah, good luck. It's terrible out there. So if you catch one, you're doing something right. And so, yeah, we hopped onto the San Juan. I didn't know what I was doing. And it was tough fishing. And we ended up bumping into a couple, locals that were just dialed in. They knew exactly what to do. And so that's where I think asking and just being approachable and talking to people and spreading information can help a ton, because we found out what they were doing. And within a couple hours, we each had 30, 40 fish.
Oh, wow.
It went from nothing to this is exactly what you have to do, and you're catching fish nonstop. And so
That's awesome.
And so we fished the whole afternoon, and then the next day we each probably caught 70 fish on the San Juan. And
that's outstanding.
Just an absolutely epic way to go about it, because you didn't think you were catching a fish. We show up, we didn't think we were going to catch a fish. And so we ended up going to a brewery after the couple days of fishing, and we're sitting at the brewery, and the signature beer was Drink the Legend, Be the Legend, Pepe Loco. And that was their local beer. And so I'm sitting there, I'm drinking my beer, and then I told my father-in-law, I gotta run to the restroom quick. I come back, and next to my beer is the shirt of the of the beer. Drink the Legend, Be the Legend, Pepe Logo. And he goes, this is for a legendary trip, because you're a legend. And so that's kind of how the whole Trout Legend became, is just like, we had an amazing trip. And he knew, I call the shot a lot with him, especially if I know a hole or I'm getting dialed in. And I think it gets under his skin. So that's why I love to do it. And so he really does. He believes in me. And so that's how the Trout Legend became.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
That is great. Give us what's one piece of advice you would have given your 20-year-old self? It's not too long ago for you, but what's one piece of advice you'd? Yeah,
coming up on 15 years ago, I would say exactly what I'm saying today: listen, learn, do, teach. And I don't think I listened. I think that's a tough thing for guys in general to take advice and listen well. And I think that's one of the things that I'm working on more than ever nowadays, is listening more.
Good. Nice. Love it.
What is your definition of community?
People who care. If somebody's going to at least check in on you here and there, and they're there for your well-being and want to know that you're doing well as a person, I think that's all community is somebody who cares.
Excellent. Absolutely. Love that definition. What's one thing you've changed your mind about lately?
Doing everything. I don't want to do everything anymore.
Right? That's good. That's good. Take some stuff off your plate, right?
Yeah. Take a breath, breathe, slow down.
So good. So good and so important.
It's so simple too.
Right?
But it's hard to do as a guy. I mean, I feel like you always, as a guy, you're like, oh man, I need to do all these things on my own, really.
For sure. Yeah. And one of the cool things is listening to you guys. I've listened to most of your podcasts now, and you guys are both sober. And so that really drove my New Year's resolution this year is I'm going to be dry. I'm going to do a year dry and just see how it makes me feel.
Awesome.
That's amazing, dude.
It is.
Thank you.
And if you need any counsel, anything like through there, let us know, man. Like for sure, we can help because it gets tough. You get put in situations and it can get weird. But yeah, man, we're here to help you through that, whatever. Just for the sake of doing it and feeling better.
Yeah, for sure. I'm not getting any younger, so it's just one of those things to where let's see how a year being alcohol free treats me.
Good.
And if I absolutely hate it, I can go back to drinking a few beers here and there.
That's right.
For sure.
That's absolutely right.
No, I think for both of us, it's really enriched a lot of our life, and it's easier now more than ever to do it with all the non-alcoholics that exist in the world and things like that. It's almost, I don't know. For me, it was always so hard to go into a social situation and not have a drink of choice. But now that everybody has the NAs around, you can kind of blend in and they actually taste good. So it's
so much more acceptable now. So
for sure.
I think it's just our society accepts it a lot more. So that's fantastic.
But good on you for taking on your health and focusing on yourself. It's awesome.
Save some calories,
Exactly. More walleye sandwiches.
For sure.
Well, our last question comes from our previous guest, who was Tyler Romig from La Cabana Fishing Lodge down in Patagonia, Chile. And his question for you was, if you could change anything about the fly fishing industry, what would it be?
Well, super funny is I'm actually trying to get down to Patagonia at the end of this year.
Nice.
So
we can link you up.
I might have to link up with him. Yeah.
Go see Tyler.
So that I actually have a couple things that I would like to see different. And one is the accessibility laws. I really think that if you can be in the water, you should be able to be in the water anywhere. I think it's really tough to know, and I know that Trout Routes, which I've been working with the Trout Routes team a little bit, they've done an insanely good job of marking stuff off for you. But prior to that, people kind of were just going where they felt, kind of, and then getting kicked off property and stuff like that. So accessibility laws, I would love for them to be as lenient as possible to an angler as long as he keeps his feet wet.
Right.
Otherwise, just the industry as a whole, I think it shouldn't be as hard for people to get on the water as people make it to be, because you can walk in any stream and fish. But so many people think it's so hard, and it's not.
Right.
And so that's where my teaching is coming in. I'm teaching people it's not that hard.
Right.
Anybody can go and cast a line, I promise.
Right.
I think one of the hard things with that is for people, it is one of those sports that is so hard to get into because you suck at it when you start. And so really getting into it and knowing where to go to give yourself the best shot, those accessibility issues and things like that are all important at the beginning to really know. And so having that mentorship that you're providing to people and other people in the fly fishing world are getting so much more receptive to doing is a huge part of it, because it is a sport that you do need that guidance and mentorship to really get into it first. So good on you for being the change that you want to see. And we're hoping to do a little bit of the same.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, what's your question for our next guest?
Crazy one. Have you ever taught somebody that has been a mentor to you? And I guess I'll answer that with, I have taught my 5th grade teacher how to fly fish.
Nice.
Crazy.
How did that come about?
It was right around COVID. We were his first class ever. He was just, obviously it's very memorable for somebody if it's their first class. I don't know if you remember your first class, Reid.
I do. Yeah.
But it's kind of a memorable experience because it's your first time going through it.
100%.
Reid's first class does all grandparents now, so yeah, it's been a while. I'm actually surprised that he can actually listen.
That's so uncool. Remember. Why you gotta be
sorry,
like
bro.
that, man?
Sorry, bro. Sorry.
Just gotta dive right in.
Just gotta go there. Unbelievable.
But yeah, no, I linked up with him during COVID. He just wanted to know how I was doing with my life and where I was at and whatever.
Right.
And I told him I was really getting into fly fishing, and he was like, I like to fly fish. And then 15 minutes of being on the water with me, he's like, you got to teach me how to fly fish. And so
nice.
he felt very new to the sport when he went out with me, which was humbling for me. And that's where the whole transition kind of started with me teaching was with my old 5th grade teacher. I taught him the ropes a little bit on how to nymph in our local rivers.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. I love hearing that. So, well, that's good, man. This has been great conversation.
Yeah. Thank you guys for having me.
So where can people find you? Who are you, who are the brands you're working with nowadays? Things like that.
Yeah. So I'm TheTroutLegend on Instagram. Working with some brands, Oros, 8 Fans, Ant Fly Fishing. They make fiberglass rods. And so been linked up with them and going to be promoting their rod quite a bit, which is a lot of fun. If you've never fished with a fiberglass rod, I recommend picking one up because they are just different. They feel different. The fight feels even that much more intense because you feel everything.
That's awesome.
Have either of you guys fished with a fiberglass rod?
I'm not.
Old.
Okay.
An old one. Yeah.
Like an eagle claw?
Yeah. Like old school. Like having an old Loomis. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I will, I'll hopefully see you guys up here this summer.
Yeah, we'll definitely make that happen.
I'd love to throw that rod at you and let you test her out and see what you think. Cause they're a lot of fun.
Yeah,
for sure. We'll make that happen.
Sounds good.
All right, Kyle.
Thank you.
This is awesome, man. We really appreciate the conversation.
Yeah. Have a good one. Thanks for, hearing my story.
We'll connect soon, brother.
Sounds good.
See ya. Dude, I love how Kyle is all about teaching and bringing up the next generation.
Right? I think it stems from, honestly, like one of the coolest things about him was that it stems from that idea of getting outside your comfort zone. He's explored a lot of different stuff. I've known my wife from Minnesota and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of people who simply fish one way. And I feel like he's really about exploring, and then expanding that and learning and giving that knowledge to other people. Really a cool dude.
For sure. It's so cool to see that he's kind of naturally created a annual fishing trip tradition and kind of has found the value that we found in our guys fishing weekend. And, super cool to see, it working for another guy as well. It's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. To see him have success in, hard work and all those kinds of things, really good. I thought it was great that he's like sitting in his van doing that, when it's like 9 degrees outside.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Before that, we were like, hey, done any fishing? He's like, no, it's way too cold to go fishing. Like, I feel you, brother. Yeah. So.
Yeah, no, great conversation. Can't wait to get up to his neck of the woods and fish with him and everybody else we've met up there. And some cool water we got to fish out in the driftless, and it's going to be awesome.
And he seems like a great guy, like a really good dude to go fishing with. Yeah. So that'll be fun.
Well, what are you celebrating today?
Celebrating, dude. I'm celebrating fly tying. I'm getting back into, as you know, because I sent you pictures of the flies that I've been tying. But getting back into it with some regularity. I'm trying to be intentional about those things that kind of help me out. And fly tying is one of them. And it's easy to not do it because I got to set up my vise and get all my stuff ready. And kind of it's a laborious process to kind of get stuff out. But then once you do, and I start tying and I just put on music, it's relaxing. I'm not the most creative guy, but fly tying certainly allows me some creativity and to learn how to do stuff and try new techniques. So that's been really cool for me to get into being intentional about getting back into that and doing that with some regularity. Because now's the time to build up my fly supply.
For sure.
Yeah, so there's nothing like catching fish on flies that you've tied, which you're going to find out soon, Ed. You're going to find out that you're going to use some of those flies you tied in class.
I just hope you get a little faster. I mean, the amount of pictures you've sent me over the amount of time that you've actually tied. Let's not say this is, this is commercial level production yet.
It's definitely not. Definitely not. But you know what? That'll come with time. It's all good. I've never claimed to be a fast fly tyer, but
you have no.
I feel like my flies will definitely catch fish, so that's good.
If I'm gonna, reap any of the benefits from your tying habit, you need to get a little faster. That's all I know.
Right. Oh, good. Well, I can't wait until we can have some conversations on here, like some live fly tying bullshitting conversations.
That's coming down the pipeline for sure.
That will be.
How about you, dude? What are you celebrating?
I am celebrating. Well, this might be old news by the time that everybody listens to this, but the Broncos made the playoffs. They edged out your Dolphins to keep you out of the playoffs, and the Broncos made it back to the playoffs after a crazy 9-year drought from their Super Bowl appearance. So,
well, here's the thing that you got to be excited about if you're a Bronco fan. Like, there's a lot of positives on the horizon. This Bo Nix kid seems to be pretty good on a pretty good path. So yeah, but here's God's honest truth is, if if the Broncos lost and the Dolphins made the playoffs, we would just go to Buffalo and get the living crap kicked out of us like we always do by Buffalo. So it saved me a little pain, even though I'm like, you definitely want your team to do well, but yeah, there's no chance Miami's got what it takes.
There's a chance Tommy, the Buffalo fan in our group, is listening to this on Tuesday when it airs, yelling at the radio, cheering about how awesome his team is. But there's also a chance that he's listening right now and he's very, very sad. So, Tommy, we're thinking about you.
Time will tell. Yes, Tommy, we're thinking about you, brother. It's hard. It's funny because it's hard for me to root for the Bills, but I don't like root for the Broncos either. So, yeah, whatever.
I mean, Tommy deserves it. I mean, to be a Bills fan for as long as they've sucked, it does have to hurt. If this conversation is coming after a loss, it's got to hurt for him.
We're gonna have to take Tom out and be gentle on the water with him, which is probably not gonna happen. But yeah, the for Buffalo Bills in the Super Bowl. Oh boy.
Well, what are you navigating?
So my navigation is, parenting adult children as they're heading into adulthood. So my son's back from college, living in the house, but he's on college time. So he's like, he's used to not having to communicate, not having to let us know things. And as a parent, like, I don't care. I'm not looking for control. But like when we're making family dinner, are you going to be around? And the lack of communication that comes from this kid is fucking driving us crazy. So there's some things about like, you're so excited to have your kids come back. And then it's like, oh, for the love of God, what is your issue? So he's a night owl. I'm an early riser. Like I haven't seen him for literally 2 days. He goes out all day. We never hear from him. I don't know if he's safe. Hell, I don't know what the hell is going on with this kid. He could be in a ditch somewhere. I don't even know. So it's just that when you're living together again, you know what I mean? Like getting on. So it's hard, dude. It's tough. So that's my navigation is not wanting to be controlling
but wanting to be
New
respectfully,
roommates.
yeah, right, yeah, respectfully communicate, dude. It's not that hard. So anyway, that's what the missus.
But it is, it is hard. He doesn't. He's living in a world now where he doesn't have to communicate at all.
Yeah, he's.
You started this by saying you didn't want any control, but it sounds like you want a lot of control.
No, I honestly, I don't care if you don't come home for dinner. Just tell us you're not going to come home. Do you know what I mean? Just communicate. I don't give a shit.
I do.
Yeah.
I remember being him.
Right.
And I wasn't a good communicator. So
right.
I can appreciate it.
Yeah. It's, he's definitely not. Here's the thing. You get one kid who's like just a total people pleaser. And then the next one's just like, I could give a rat's ass. So you get used to things. And then you're like, oh boy, he's different. I don't want to compare him. I don't want to do, so It's funny. But it's a lot of navigation of parenting older kids, I guess. So your parenting skills need to change and shift. And this is definitely a navigation for us. So, yeah.
Well, be nice. He's going to wipe your ass one day.
That's true. That's true. How about you, dude? What are you navigating?
I am navigating something I haven't had to navigate in a while, which is since moving from Colorado, we got absolutely annihilated by snow this week. And it just like living in a place that doesn't get this amount of snow, which is a little over a foot, probably somewhere between 12 and like 16 inches. Yeah. It like completely locked up this city. It's crazy. Like
right.
Kansas City had no idea what to do. There's so many funny videos of just cars like dead stop and then they just like start sliding off. I mean, when you get snow here, you get a quarter of an inch to a half inch of ice to start the whole thing. So it's just as like, it just makes it impossible. So I don't fault the city and the people in it. Like it isn't physically impossible to drive around in it, even with like, the best tires or whatever you could have. It still is a challenging drive, but it definitely like threw this city into a total lockdown. It's crazy.
Yeah, dude, listening to you to talk about that and just like the chaos of everything and having to drive, like with your wife and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, it makes me appreciate, we may get a couple inches and it may be a pain in the ass, but at least they got plows out. They're dropping mag chloride. So it's never like the ice thing. We don't get that too often. You know what I mean? Like we're just prepared for it the way it is, but it's just like, yeah, we don't have it that bad here. It's not so bad. That's pretty good. Even when we get those big storms.
You got to figure it out.
Yeah.
But there is something different that hits a little different than Colorado. Like you do get a little ice. That's usually from it like freezing overnight. Here it's like everything's caked in it.
Right.
Your car, your windows are caked in it. Like you can't scrape them off. It's just like everything's glazed with a quarter inch of ice. It's crazy. But we're making it through. And then we got hit again last night with like another 3 inches on top of it, and it just that never happens out here.
Right. So. Well, good luck, brother. Yeah, that sounds
thanks.
good.
I'll get through it.
You'll deal. It's a pain, but you'll deal.
Yep. So
another good episode, dude.
Another goodie.
Yeah, absolutely.
This was awesome.
Look forward to the next one, bro.
Looking forward to it. Love you, man.
Love you too, bro. Talk soon.
That's all for today's episode. Thanks for listening. Make sure to visit our website, guysfishingweekend.com, to check out the GFW merch, sign up for our newsletter, and learn how to get involved with the community. We appreciate you spending even a little bit of your week with us and are glad to have you along on the journey. Stay legendary and happy fishing.